How's it going, everyone? It's me, Lone, back again with another Fallout 76 video, and today we're going to be talking about Still Dawn. Still Dawn, of course, launched this week. It was a week ahead of schedule, mind you, but still this week nevertheless, and I'm so tired, man. And I want to talk specifically about the new top-tier armor that was introduced with Still Dawn, and that specifically is the Brotherhood Recon armor. This is effectively another top-tier armor in the game. It competes very much so with the Secret Service armor that was introduced with Wastelanders, and the purpose of today's video is to tell you which is the best. And of course, there is no clear-cut answer. There are some important differences between these two pieces of armor that I'll be telling you all about in this video and helping you make that decision in terms of which armor you should be focusing on. So if you enjoy this video, please like it. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new. But with all that out of the way, let's do it. Let's talk about the Brotherhood Recon armor versus the Secret Service armor in Fallout 76. Okay, so we are here in Vault 79. This is where you can purchase all the plans for the Secret Service armor and its mods, and now it's where you purchase the plans for the mods of the Brotherhood Recon armor, so it's a good place to be comparing the two. Mind you, I don't yet have the Brotherhood Recon armor on this character because while I finished Still Dawn in the PTS, I haven't actually finished it in the live server because, again, the update launched early and I haven't had the time with work and everything. So we can still talk about it. I have experiences with it in the PTS and I have all the stats to the right of me, so we can easily compare these two. All my credits and sources, by the way, in the description below, including for the thumbnail. But let's do it. Let's compare the Secret Service armor and the Brotherhood Recon armor. So effectively, there are three big differences between these two pieces of armor, and those are resistances, modifications, and weight. Let's deal with weight very quickly. I will get into specific numbers as we look at each individual piece, but effectively, the Brotherhood Recon armor generally weighs less than the Secret Service armor. Not by much, but it's there. So if you are very conscious about your carry capacity in Fallout 76, then you should be leaning towards the Brotherhood Recon armor. If you're not so concerned about that, then like with me, then I don't think you should really be focusing too much on the weight differences. Really, it's resistances and modifications that are available that are the two big things that you need to consider when comparing these two pieces of armor. Now, mind you, very generally, you can equip both of them, you know, for your arms and your legs and your chest, right? You don't have to go all in one or all the other, right? You can have both. But for the purposes of this video, we're just going to compare them standalone so you know the exact differences. So let's start off with resistances, because I think that's probably the most important, and then eventually we'll talk about modifications. So resistances. The short story is that the Brotherhood Recon armor has better damage resistance across the board, or DR, whereas the Secret Service armor has better energy and radiation resistance across the board, or ER and RR. So when you're comparing these two, effectively the question that you need to ask yourself is, which is more important to you, having a higher damage resistance or having a higher energy and radiation resistance? And I will say this about radiation resistance first up. For me, that's not as important, because even with a Secret Service armor with a higher RR, you're not going to be running into a nuke zone anyways, right? You're still going to die. Where having a higher RR, that's really hard to say, where having a higher radiation resistance really helps is when you're like fighting creatures that deal radiation damage, like a ghoul for instance. Effectively, having a higher RR helps you retain a little bit more health and get dealt less radiation damage. So if you do that a lot, and if you're concerned about that, then yes, technically the Secret Service armor will be better in that regard. But for me, it's DR and ER, which are the main resistances that we should really be talking about. So again, Brotherhood Recon armor, better DR, Secret Service armor, better ER and RR across the board. So let's get into the specific pieces and the actual stats. And mind you, we're just going to be talking about level 50 and with the Buttressed mods, or Buttressed. I can never know how to pronounce that. Some people tell me I'm always wrong. I'm going to say Buttressed because that's what I'm used to, right? I know it's wrong. I don't care. So let's start off with the chest piece, right? So, as you can see there, the Secret Service armor chest piece has a DR of 115, an ER of 85, and an RR of 85. Whereas the Brotherhood Recon armor, again, notes here, has a DR with the Buttressed mod of 125, an ER of 65, and an RR of 65. So, you got to see which is more important to you. Having that 125 DR, which is 10 higher than the Secret Service, or having the higher ER and RR of 20 each. And that's actually pretty significant. 20 is a big difference, especially in ER when it comes to the Secret Service armor and the Brotherhood Recon armor. But again, those are the differences. Determine which one's more important to you. I'm about to give a personal opinion now, but that's what I'm telling you as a kind of objective fact. Those are the stats. In terms of my personal opinion, I place more importance on energy resistance in the game over damage resistance because I find DR is a little easier to increase over ER. Even as you look at these two pieces of armor, for both of them, like they're incredible stats across the board, right? And each of them are going to serve you well. But for both of them, the DR is still higher than the ER and the RR. And as you can see with my overall resistances, right? I have a full set of Secret Service. My DR is 517 and my ER is 447. And I have nothing else specifically increasing. Like I don't have my armor plated backpack equipped right now. I have nothing specifically increasing my DR, for instance, like the Barbarian perk card here. Like I have something like Ironclad, which is increasing both DR and ER. So there is no, I'm not giving a specific boost to DR, but still DR is naturally higher than ER. So when I'm looking at the Secret Service armor that has a naturally higher ER, I'm thinking, well, for me, that's a little bit more important because there is a stage with DR that you get to diminishing returns and it's not as important to keeping, to increase it. Whereas with ER, because it is naturally lower, I'm always trying to find ways to increase it. And remember, this 447 ER that I have is with Secret Service armor equipped. So if you had Brotherhood Recon armor instead, that ER would be even lower. And if that was me, I would find myself getting really disadvantaged against enemies like super mutants and others that deal energy damage because they can cripple you incredibly so, which is why I place more of an importance on ER. So for me, the preferred armor would actually be the Secret Service armor because of that higher energy resistance. But if for whatever reason you want a higher DR, then you would of course go with the Brotherhood Recon armor. So I will go through each of the stats of the limbs as well, but those are the two differences for the chest. Let's quickly talk about weight, by the way, for the chest before we move on. The weight of the Brotherhood Recon armor chest piece without any mods attached is 6.5, whereas the Secret Service armor chest piece is 9.1. So again, a little bit of a difference, not too much. Determine whether that's important for you, but for me, the resistances are really the things that you need to be looking at. Let's look at the arms. And effectively, all the limbs have the exact same differences, right? So as you can see, it's 53 across the board for each of these pieces. So when you look at the Brotherhood Recon armor, for DR, it's actually 63, whereas with ER and RR, it is 43. So as you can see, higher DR for the Brotherhood Recon armor, but less ER and RR. So again, determine which one is more important to you. You can equip different pieces. Like again, if you for some reason want to have the Secret Service armor on the chest piece to get a bit more of that, plus 20 ER, and then have some Brotherhood Recon armor to have a bit more DR on your limbs, then you can do that. That's the benefit of this game and how it treats armor pieces. But for me, I would still probably put more of an importance on ER, and I would still rock my Secret Service armor across the board. Eventually, I might, for fun, just roll some new Brotherhood Recon armor pieces just to see what legendary effects that I get, but I still think I'm going to lean towards my Secret Service armor. Anyways, let's talk about the weight differences as I mentioned that I would. So for the arm pieces, the Recon armor at a base weighs 2.6, whereas the Secret Service armor weighs 3.58. So again, for each piece, a little bit of a difference. Then for the leg, let's go through the weight pieces. For the Brotherhood Recon armor, it is 2.93 for each leg piece, whereas the Secret Service armor is 3.9 each. So those would add up. Like absolutely, it would add up, and eventually, like what you would probably get at least a difference of 10 pounds at least when you add all those up and all the individual pieces. Someone do the math for me in the comments below. But it's significant, right? It's a little bit more junk that you're carrying, a little bit like maybe one or two weapons that are really good, like good legendary weapons that you can then equip on your character. But for me, weight's not as important. Get a high capacity backpack if you're super concerned about that. I would still say look at resistances and look at modifications. So we've definitely looked at resistances and weight across the board. Let's look at modifications. And you can't just say that both of these two pieces of armor have the exact same mods. They actually don't. The Secret Service armor actually has less modifications than the Brotherhood Recon armor. Not by much, but there are less mods that you can attach to it. So when it comes to the chest piece, the exact same mods. So you have the asbestos lining, biocom mesh, deep pocketed. The Brotherhood Recon armor and the Secret Service armor are the exact same for modifications when it comes to the chest pieces, right? But the arms, or the limbs generally, is where the differences are. So the Secret Service armor, as I mentioned, has less. It still has aerodynamic, it still has braced, it still has brawling, deep pocketed, lighter build, pocketed, stabilized, ultralight, and weighted. And of course, the Brotherhood Recon armor has all those too. But then on top of that, the Brotherhood Recon armor for the limbs has 3 more modifications: the lead line modification, muffled, and strengthened. So specifically lead-lined increases RR, and that of course is because the Brotherhood Recon armor has less radiation resistance than the Secret Service armor. So if you still want to have that higher DR and boost your RR a little bit, you have a mod to be able to do that, whereas you don't have that for the Secret Service armor. And then you have the muffled one, which is actually, it reduces your detection from moving. So if you are more of a sneak build, you might actually find that having the Brotherhood Recon armor with the muffled mod for your limbs is actually better for you versus the Secret Service armor. And again, you can just have one piece to be able to get the muffled mod of Brotherhood Recon armor, and not have the Secret Service armor equipped for that reason, because it doesn't have that modification. You can do that. For me, I'm not a sneak build, so I don't really care about the muffled mod, but that is a big difference. For you sneak builds out there, technically the Recon armor will be better for you if you want to equip muffled. And then the third one, strengthened, is it reduces limb damage. That is not as important to me. There are perk cards that can deal with that. There are legendary effects that can deal with that. But if you are super concerned about limb damage, the Secret Service armor does not have strengthened available to it. Only the Brotherhood Recon armor has that available. So again, to sum it up, more mods available for you on the Brotherhood Recon armor, but specifically those 3. If you're concerned about them, go with that. If you're not concerned about with them, like with me, stick with the Secret Service armor, especially if you want to prefer your energy resistance. I think that covers it. I know I babbled a little bit. It's like midnight here. I'm trying to spit out a video. But that's pretty much it. So resistances, modifications, and weight. Determine which are more important to you and choose the armor that you want. I, for one, will probably be sticking with the Secret Service armor, of course, because I don't have the Recon armor yet. But when I get it, I might try it a little bit, experiment with it. Maybe I'll try out the sneak mod just to, try it out a little bit. But for me, I'm probably going to be sticking with the Secret Service armor, just for the, the way that I play in my build, etc. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's get to the conclusion. Alrighty, Wastelanders, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any questions as well, I'd be happy to answer them. If I made any mistakes, I'm sorry. I'm so tired, man. It's been a big week, and I'm getting a puppy tomorrow, so I'm actually pretty excited about that. Anyways, please like, subscribe. I really appreciate it. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight. Oh, my voice. It's so dead.